I've got the looks and the charm of an old movie star. Cary Grant, if you will, so I find it bizarre that this girl should refuse to step into my car. She must be shy, she'll come around, it's just a matter of time. Aurora, Aurora.
Hey there, Screen Beans, and welcome to Screen Snark, the podcast that celebrates all of the shows that are in our eyes, on our minds, and in our hearts. I am Rachel Quirky Shank.
And I am Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon.
And I am so hyped today.
I know. You're at like a 12.
I'm gonna say like maybe like a 15
okay.
even.
I mean, but you live life as a 15 if we're honest, I'm just saying.
Do I? I did
like
once. I don't think I do anymore. I think I live my life as like a troll, like a bridge troll now.
Fair enough.
Perma bridge troll, just hiding in my home.
We are super excited. Our guest this week is the incredible Maggie May Fish. Maggie,
Hello.
welcome.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here.
I too am a cave troll. I actually, when I record podcasts, I have this portable cardboard like sound box.
Nice.
So I literally am in a cave talking to you guys. And it's great.
It's great.
I'm excited. It's great. It's great.
Could we dare say call you the cave troll of YouTube? Is that accurate?
Go ahead. Go right ahead.
There's gonna be some cave trolls on YouTube that are gonna be really mad about
Really?
I know.
Really mad.
They were like, her? She takes the crown?
it. Really gonna alienate our cave troll
Audience,
YouTuber
exactly.
audience right here.
We're going to talk to more about your YouTube career and all of that fun stuff in the interview portion. But as always, we're going to start the show with what we've been watching most recently. And surprise, surprise, Rachel and I are completely in sync again. Spoiler alert.
Oops.
We talked it before the episode, but we both watched In and of Itself.
I watched. Okay, yeah, I watched
Cool.
as well.
Oh, wow. This is a rare moment where all three humans on this podcast watch the same thing.
Wow!
Amazing.
I feel like it's funny. I had always heard about the show for ages, living in New York and like going to a lot
seeing
of
it on
shows.
the
Oh,
subway.
interesting. Okay.
And
Yeah.
so, and it was one of those shows that I was like, yeah, I'm definitely going to go see it. I can't wait to go see it. And then the pandemic happened and it closed and all of that stuff.
I think it closed before the
Did it?
pandemic because the show that I'm going to talk about also with this Douglas was played in that space after.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Got it. But
Spoilers, I'm talking about Douglas. It's fine.
But it's one of those shows. Like I'm a sucker for magic, and I feel like there are two types of magic fans, right? The ones who want to know how it works and can't wait to figure it out, and then the ones who are just of a child like mine who just want to take it all in and believe magic is real. And I am the latter. Like I'm friends with a bunch of magicians in New York, and I've never wanted to know the secret to their tricks. I never want to know how they work. I like to think about the mechanics sometimes, but for the most part, I just want to believe magic is real and live in that awe. And what's really fascinating about this show is that especially watching it on Hulu, is I feel like the narrative of the show was even more important than the magic. The magic was important, but there were a lot of dramatic cutaways and like mixing and like animation, like mini animation moments and stuff, and which I don't think is necessarily bad or good, but it changes the experience that I feel like live. Also, like for those, I guess spoiler alert for those who haven't watched it, this is a lot of stuff to have to do with Derek's life and things he's experienced. But there's also a part of the show that I thought was fascinating that I'd never seen before, with a book about the show that someone leaves early with every show and come back the next night. And they never get to see the end of the show until after they've written about it along with the rest of the show in this book. And I just think that's such an interesting device. Also, to trust someone from the crowd that you don't know to take something that is vital to the show and bring it back. And that it always came back is astonishing to me.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. The book part was probably one of my favorites. I feel like there were bright moments in it that was just like, oh, fucking cool. Yeah, it was. I didn't realize till afterwards that it had such a long run, and that it was on Broadway. I assumed it, had been, but yeah. Oh.
Yeah, the special tragedy for I myself, a New York denizen, I worked in an office across Union Square from that theater the entire run. And I never saw it ever. I never was like, I'll get a ticket and just walk across the park and go check it out. It was just it was such a shame. I will say in relation to that ship's log, I found this piece incredibly neo-futurist.
Yeah.
Especially like some moments of just like, you have obviously seen the Infinite Wrench at least once.
At least once.
Because you are doing some stuff. Like when he leans in and he whispers to the other performance artist and you don't hear what he says, I was like, I have seen that done at so many Neo shows. I cannot believe it. I think it's such a strong piece. I have a little bit of umbrage with the editing choices. I think some, and I was just talking to this fact to Matt before the show started, especially when it came to like certain illusions. I also, like Matt, have many magician friends. In fact, lived with a magician for a couple years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we were roommates. It was great. Yeah, there was a Madame Twisto box in my apartment for a while, which was
That's
wild.
Wow.
Yeah, and for me, as someone who just like really loves to be swept away in the craft of illusion, sleight of hand, magic, whatever you want to call it, anytime the edit chose to cut away from the illusion, it really dampened the impact. It like undermined the tension that I think is very important.
Yeah.
But like Matt is correct. I think they were really trying to put storytelling first and then illusion second, because obviously like magic and illusion have become sort of like a less culturally powerful entity. But also just in the way one chooses to film live pieces, sometimes I feel a lot of tension is cut when you cut away to animation or to other video elements, because I think that piece stands a lot in what I understand about folks who saw it live, is it is kind of this isolated experience. You're in a room with Derek. He is telling you all of these things. Sometimes he is interacting with you very intimately. So, you know, I think it's a differing choice than what I would have done as someone who like loves live performance and the just like person to person, like very intimate experience of it. I thought it was a beautiful piece. I wish that we had more of just like the piece.
Yeah.
Filmed.
I felt that too. Yeah. The best moments were those moments of like, you know, when the people are reading the letters, there's a lot of like human emotion that is able to bring out, which, I felt sometimes were either, you know, dampened or, cut away from. And it's like, oh no, like that's the most interesting part is like, and like feeling that you're in this situation with like a particular group of people and like the camaraderie that you feel with them because they're, you know, they went through it with you. I feel like, it kind of.
Yeah. We were being a little artsy with our edit. And it was trying to be on the same level as the piece itself, and I think because it undermines it in such a weird way that like the number of times that he like points at his own temple like right at the end is an especially like jarring and egregious moment, because I know that like Frank Oz and the team are trying to illustrate that Derek put himself through this night after night after night after night, and like I love that idea, but I think we already got that with the cutting of the elements of like different audience members on stage, the reflection, the teacher, like all of these sort of like audience members turned characters that I think that like dramatic tension of just like the very like visceral motion of like someone putting a pointed finger at their temple after having talked about Russian roulette for like an entire show just really like kind of ruins that like that sort of like grab you in your guts and like pull them out of you kind of moment. The editing was trying to flourish, and it really should have just been there to support.
I think that it's funny too, because the stuff I focused on, I'm an emotional watcher, I'm an emotional listener, and so the emotional stuff is what gets me. And also, as a queer person, like the story about his mom, like it just the whole story ruins me.
Yeah,
it just because it's so interesting because at the one point where he says something along the lines of like, I was hiding it and it wasn't even about me. Like, I'm straight and I'm hiding it. Like, that acknowledgement that, you know, there was a level of embarrassment, but not because he was embarrassed by his mom, but because he knew what would happen to him or to her. It's really fascinating. And then, of course, like, I was feeling it enough. And then later where they cut to him going through the audience and he goes, hi, Mom. And like, I just lost it. Like, I was just... It's so good. And then also, like, during when I was watching it with my spouse Sarah, when we got to the point about the brick and it was gone and they gave it a location, we said out loud, God, I hope it's actually there. And so then the cut at the end where it just shows all the people finding the brick, like, I don't even care how that works. Like, I have an idea. Like, obviously, it's something along the lines, I'm guessing, is someone
it's
brought
an
it there.
intern.
An intern bringing the brick there.
An intern hopped in a cab and was like, I hope this is somewhere close. Please be somewhere nearby.
But like that moment, like, I didn't need that closure, but it was so satisfying to get it, people finding it. And like, I absolutely would have done that with my spouse after a show. Like, we would have absolutely gone, do you want to go see if the brick is there? Like, that's absolutely something
let's
we
go.
would have done.
Let's go find it out. Yeah. The theater becoming the theater outside of the theater. It's so cool.
And then like also what I love about the show is that it's my kind of humor. Like, it's mostly drama and emotion with funny moments. And a lot of the funny moments born out of the narrator or the audience being uncomfortable. Because that's familiar to me. Like, when I tell jokes, for whatever that means, like, it's usually self-deprecating. It's usually like, oh, we're uncomfortable. Well, I'm going to talk about it. And so, like, I saw a lot of that in this performance. And it really, I don't know if it was that I was relating to it or that I just understood it. But, like, I'm also a sucker for storytelling, especially if it's believable storytelling. Like, honestly, Derek could have been lying the whole time, but because of the performance and the way he tells the story, I was 100% in from minute one.
Yeah.
And it really sucked me in. And some of my favorite magic shows that I've seen off Broadway or even at small theaters are also some element of storytelling.
Yeah, very, very couched in the human experience. You know, like, yes, I am a show person. Yes, I have worked decades at my craft, but like, life happened in between me learning how to like disappear a card, you know, and what was that in between. I think a lot about our friend Nelson Lugo's first one-man show where he talks about studying that rope trick for a decade and saying like, I worked on this to the exclusion of so many other things. And then Derek instantly starts like, it took me 8 years to learn the right way to hold a deck of cards. And I was like, that's the magician's life. Yeah. That's why I could not learn the craft, because I was like, I don't want to drop a ball in my hand again and again and again to feel the weight of it so I can disappear it correctly. That sounds like work.
Not for me. Yeah.
No, thank you, she said.
Yeah, it's really also like, I of course now have the postpartum regret of like never seeing it live, like seeing.
I know.
But I am grateful for shows like this that I get to see for the first time like this, just because otherwise I'd never get to see it. Like,
I love filmed live theater. I love, and I hope to see more of that. Especially, you know, during quarantine and yada yada. But I would just, because I mean, again, there's so many shows that are just not accessible. Like, especially theater, you have to physically go to the place, and that. A lot of people just can't get that to happen, but that doesn't mean that they don't want to see the show or that they aren't, you know, wouldn't want to see a piece like that. So I do hope that that's, you know, a trend that I see, because I love watching theater, and I lived in Chicago for a long time, and I loved watching, you know, going into the city and watching at all the great theater shows that they had there, but. Yeah, it's just, especially in quarantine, it's like, wow, this really can't happen now, but also, like, it was hard enough for it to happen when regular life was going on, so.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's one of the reasons I haven't watched Hamilton on Disney Plus, and it's not. It's for me. It's because I was very lucky to get to see Hamilton when it was off Broadway, when it was still at the public before it blew up. Because my spouse has worked in theater.
Back up the train. You said before it blew up, and there was that one explosion at the public.
Oh,
while Hamilton was running.
I didn't even.
you sucked all of the air out of my body. You said before it blew up, and I was like, oh no.
Oh no.
Not what I meant.
I don't think the explosion actually happened at the theater.
No.
It was on the other side of the block, behind it. But like, I remember that because our friend Mary Sin was actually supposed to see Hamilton that day.
Yep, that's right. Poor choice of words aside, though.
It's okay. It wasn't. I just like viscerally remember that day.
The most Freudian of slips.
Exactly. But like I got to see Hamilton before it got big on Broadway, and like I think at that time like a lot of the actors kind of knew, like the buzz was already there, but I knew someone who worked at the Public, and so we got the inside scoop and got tickets in advance, and like that show blew me away in a way because I was a rap nerd, I was a history nerd, and like then for it to come out on Disney Plus, I haven't watched it yet because that personal experience means so much to me, and that's how I want to remember it, which seems kind of stupid, but like
No.
but
No.
I'm so
Maggie and I disagree with that.
Yeah,
take.
I saw it in Chicago, and so now when I see Lin-Manuel play their lead, I'm like,
yeah, fair.
The actors in Chicago are, ooh.
I've heard excellent things about them.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, Lin, I think, would be the first to admit he is not the best person to have played that role.
Yes. Yeah.
But like, I'm so grateful that it's on Disney Plus. It's just so unprecedented for such a popular musical to just be available and not be an actual movie, which was probably part of what they wanted to do with Hamilton eventually, is maybe do like an actual narrative movie. But this version at least allows people to enjoy it. Like because also like I was talking about it constantly before they got the cast recording out, before it was on Broadway, and so like. And some people can't even they don't listen to music that way, or they'd rather watch it, and so like for it to just be accessible for people to be able to just see it with ease. I mean, there's still the cost of buying into corporate Disney and shelling out for the streaming service, but like more accessible than going paying $100 a ticket to go to Broadway.
Yeah. And at the very least, if one of your friends has Disney Plus,
you can watch it.
you can always do
Exactly.
that exchange of like your password for my password.
Hey, I totally don't do that with my brother for several things.
Oh gosh, no!
Never.
I'd never ever.
That was
That was a hypothetical. It was satire. Don't worry.
everyone who's listening, the
Everyone get real cool real fast right now. But yeah, and I had never seen the live performance of Hamilton. So for me, getting the chance to see it in that venue was such a gift. And as one who hasn't seen it live, it in no way deters my desire or determination to want to see it live.
Oh, yeah.
In the same way, like you watch a filmed production of a Shakespeare play, you're like, cool, that's really neat. But like, I wonder what it feels like in the space, in the moment with those actors, where it is super ephemeral, and then it's like kind of for you and them, and then never again, because you'll never get the same energy, you'll never get the same crowd, you'll never get the same show, whereas a film production is always going to be the same every single time. I hope that theater really gets wise to that idea that like accessibility will lead to interest and not the opposite.
Yeah, I mean that was the same. Or the SpongeBob musical, when they showed it on Nickelodeon, I was like, this is so good. And the next time it's touring, I will absolutely go see it live, because you're right. And it just shows that like, I think a lot of people that don't have access to theater, make a lot of assumptions about theater because they simply do not have access to it. So, increasing access is only going to make people more interested. Yeah, you're not spoiling the bunch.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's all streaming services done, right? Like, I feel like conversation around movie and TV, or even understanding behind the scenes for that stuff, because of things like Netflix and Disney Plus and whatever else, like, has only amplified that, Like, I remember growing up, like, I knew about director's commentary on DVDs because I watched it all the time. But, like, I talked to some of my friends who just kind of casually watched movies and were like, yeah, I don't understand. Whereas now, like, everything has that option, even the streaming services do. And I feel like it's just more common to talk about that. And even I feel like the quality of directors' cuts or directors' commentary has gone up because, like, now the actors are often involved and not just the person who wrote it or directed it. And I love that stuff. And I think that Hulu releasing in and of itself this way will just make people more interested in magic, more interested in live magic, and more interested in Broadway and Broadway theater. And I think it's just a win-win-win. But I do agree. I feel like I would have enjoyed it more if I was in the audience. Because also there's something about, you know, I'm assuming there was no TV magic to make this stuff happen, but you don't know. But like in the theater, like you there's no one else there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when you cut away from an illusion, it offers the skeptical mind even more lens and license to be skeptical, you know, especially like the card tricks where it's just like, you know that this happened, but now the editing wants you to also doubt. And maybe that's a choice, and that's a really interesting choice, since this whole piece is about like, what is the truth, what is the lie, who is the dog, who is the wolf, you know, like, and I can understand and see like both sides of the coin, but I can only speak from like where my empathetic heart went in those moments of just like, ooh, yeah. Ooh, but just keep the camera.
Stay there. Yeah.
Don't move.
You don't need it.
All of a sudden, I'm Derek Delgadio going, don't anyone move. Don't anyone breathe. Where's the magician? He's at the table. Keep watching. You know,
I was on table.
Don't look away. But yeah, I think it's a brilliant piece if you enjoy kind of cerebral, heady things, or like really emotional things, or if you want to sort of live in somebody's human experience for a while, I highly recommend it.
Yeah. Same. Yeah, I think also part of wanting to be there live is like, I'm a live show, movie, theater, music listener, crier. Like I cry a lot listening and watching stuff, and like absolutely in that audience, if I wasn't already crying when he looked at me and told me what I was, I would lose it. I would absolutely
absolutely. That was one of the most like, if I was there, I'd be crying. Yeah, and like the way he describes like looking someone in your eyes and like saying that like, I see you for what you want to be seen as, like that's, you know, very powerful and cool piece of theater.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool little theater.
Way to go. Can you do 29 more of them in an hour?
Exactly right.
And on to the next one. Yeah. Let's get the next audience member in. Let's get Bill Gates in here.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh.
The celebrity cameos.
Yeah. Who was your most distracting celebrity cameo in that?
It was probably Bill Gates, because they do that thing, like even the way they edited that when it was like the reveal of Bill Gates, I was like, oh my God. And he picked something like
the leader.
Yeah.
The leader. And I was like, oh my God.
You mean the wage thief?
Yeah. The Billista Gates. Get at it, you know? Okay.
I can't even remember some of them, but there were also like big theater folks in the audience too, and like my spouse pointed them out. But like, mine
was Tim Gunn.
Oh, Tim Gunn was good.
When Tim Gunn was like crying, I was just like,
yep. That was good. Yeah. I mean, I get why they do that though. Like, you want to show that like big names saw this thing, because it elevates the fabricated importance, which shouldn't matter but does matter, and I totally get that. I absolutely understand that. Look, I'm gonna brag that someone I respect retweeted my thing I posted. Like you get it. Like it's just it's rising tide raises all ships kind of a thing, right? I think this is the first time in the history of the show we've had a threefer, where all three guess the most recent thing that they watched.
That wasn't like
I did
like
watch
wasn't
a
a blockbuster.
Oh, is that not the most recent thing you watched?
That's not the most recent. That's one of the most recent.
Oh, excellent.
But I did watch the movie last night.
Great. Then we will because Rachel, didn't you want to talk about Douglas a little bit before we shift?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yes.
Especially weirdly enough, as a conversation piece within and of itself. I'm so sorry, Maggie. I as soon as I was watching Douglas, I was like, damn it, this is going to be the Maggie episode, isn't it? I promise I'm not jacking your steez. I promise.
Oh, no, I don't even think I know what it is. I don't think I've heard of it.
Oh, it's the second Hannah Gadsby comedy special.
Oh, right. Okay. Oh, yeah. Yes. I haven't seen it yet, so by all means.
I won't spoil it.
Oh, okay.
Well, but before we shift the conversation to Douglas,
yes, of course.
I guess it's my turn.
Hey, Matt, let me ask you.
Yeah.
Let me do
like
this.
a professional, let you do your job.
yeah. Matt's about to ask himself the question that I'm supposed to ask him.
Well,
so, Matt,
yes.
if you had to describe in and of itself in mere 3 words without using in, and, of, or itself, which aren't great words to use to describe anything anyway, how would you describe Darren Delgadio's in and of itself?
3 words. Like, it's funny. My brain always goes to 2 places. Do I want to have 3 descriptive words and do alliteration? Do I want to do a sentence? Because there's no requirement. But I mean, obviously, magical, emotional, astonishing would be the 3 words I'd use to describe it.
Since I'm sort of doing this in sort of concert with the other piece, can I give my 3-word review
Please.
of this before we get into Douglas? I would say prolific, weird editing.
Prolific, weird editing.
I literally could not get over the editing. My cat like needed to be played with and eat dinner like while we were watching the piece because like he gets like real meowy when he's like, it's close to time, you know. So I had to like pause, and I was like, John, I have opinions about this piece, and I don't want to say them before we're done. And then he was like, the editing's really weird. And I was like, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Amazing. Unsurprised that you and your partner are of one mind.
Yeah, we're together we make one full functioning human.
Exactly.
Kind of great.
Well, Rachel, why don't you tell us a little bit about Douglas and why you think that those 2 things go hand in hand?
Absolutely. So as soon as I was done watching In and of Itself, I was reminded of another piece that also played at the Daryl Roth Theater, the same theater. I believe in the exact same black box theater space. But I don't know. I didn't see the live production of In and of Itself. But I really wanted to really take in a piece that also was a live performance, filmed for streaming. Because I thought that In and of Itself could have learned a lot of lessons from how comedy specials are filmed. So I made this cute little like Daryl Roth adjacent double feature. And I had already seen Douglas live. I got the distinct pleasure to see it at the Roth.
Oh wow!
While Hannah Gadsby was touring it. And I hadn't watched the video production because I was like, well, I saw it, I get it. I bought the Pouch of Douglas fanny pack. What are you talking about? At the merch store. Yeah. It's a great fanny pack.
That's
it holds
amazing.
So much stuff. But my partner had never seen it. So after this, I was like, I think it would be really interesting to sort of see like what the choices were made in the editing room for that to see if there's any difference, especially because in Douglas there is a projector element, which I assumed was also in and of itself, which is why they were leaning into sort of like old video footage and animations and like these shadowy figures. So I just wanted to see like what the difference was, and it reminded me that Hannah Gadsby is one of the greatest comedic geniuses that's lived within our contemporary mindset. Like I can't speak to other comedians that like will be after Hannah Gadsby or before Hannah Gadsby, but just there is mastery in every moment of what Hannah Gadsby is doing. And one of the best things about Douglas is Hannah Gadsby walks on stage, tells you exactly how the piece is going to work out, literally like breaking down beat for beat. Like first we're going to do a little observational humor, then I'm going to do some jokes, then there's going to be a lecture, then there's going to be this and this and this, and like you're going to feel this way, and you're going to and don't like, hey, don't take the bait, you know, just like really like laying it out, and then just watching her systematically knock down every single domino was one of the greatest things I've ever seen live, and it still had that punch in the streaming situation, like sitting in my bedroom in the dark, just like it was the same experience, and really aided by that was the very minimal editing. You know, it was filmed exactly like you would imagine like a John Mulaney special or, you know, anything else. It's just the performer on stage. You sort of like cut between different shots, you know, maybe some close-ups, you know, you pull back. Every once in a while it would be like a behind shot of Hannah with like the audience in the background, you know. Just really simple editing, and it really allows the piece to stand on its own without any any like extra like icing on the cake, but the literal number of like callbacks that Hannah builds up, knocks down, builds up again, knocks down again, builds up one more time, knocks over one more time. You're just breathless about it. Just like an offhanded comment about a dog becomes like an important bit about a piece of art, like a painting that she's showing on a projector, and you're just like, holy shit. Who makes these kinds of connections all the time, you know? And it's also not just an incredible piece of comedy and writing and like almost this like maestro ability to like think about concepts and connect them all together and then like thread them through kind of a narrative where you get this unified theory of Hannah Gadsby in a new way that like Nanette showed you sort of like a very raw and emotional side, and this was very much like the I'm fine with who I am and how I am and what I'm doing. And it especially comes forth when she's talking a lot about recently discovering that she is autistic, you know, and just this really beautiful like build up to the moment, which she totally tells you is going to happen in the first moment. She's like, I'm going to tell you in a very dramatic way that I'm autistic, that I have autism, but you already know because I already told you at the beginning of the show. And just, you know, all of these anecdotes are going to sort of build to this frenzy, and you're going to be like, oh, all of the stuff you said before about being in the dog park, just like, it's got to do the thing. It's just a brilliant piece. Like I know I'm just like running like holy, but that's how it feels when you're like in it with her just for like an hour. And so I can't recommend it enough. I think Nanette is its own entity, and I think that Douglas is when Hannah Gadsby gets to really show how she earned Nanette.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was great. I loved it. But also I did watch the animated feature A Whisker Away, and I highly recommend it. So Rachel recommends A Whisker Away.
Whoa.
Yeah, a tiny little girl turns into a cat to hang out with the boy she has a crush on.
Stop! That sounds amazing.
I know, right? Awesome. Well, Rachel, since you did talk at length about Douglas, if you had to recommend, or rather review Douglas in just 3 words without the word Douglas, or name, I suppose, what 3 words would you use to describe Douglas?
I would say hilarious, prophetic craft.
Nice. Love that.
Yeah, there is a little bit of like propheticness in it because it was, I think Hannah was touring it in 2018, 2019, and there's a couple of moments where it's like, this is like a sensibility that 2020 has. I didn't know you'd get there before us, especially in moments when she's talking about Harry Potter. It's just like,
okay. All right.
Yeah,
you saw some stuff that we didn't see yet. Good job, Hannah. Congrats. Just like a little half-handed comment, and you're like, oh God,
it's different.
Just wait till you get here, friend. Great piece. I love comedy though.
Yeah.
Like, really good, like well written, well crafted comedy will always like set my heart on fire and just be like, look at you. You're so smart. How did you get from the Ninja Turtles to the Renaissance? Like, what?
Michelangelo.
Obviously
For sure. Obviously, but.
Well, Maggie, why don't you tell us what is the most recent thing you have watched?
Well, so last night, so my partner and I have just been casually watching some like young adult films and stuff. And, you know, we watch them occasionally anyway. You know, if something comes out that we want to see, we'll watch it. But we we're watching Percy Jackson and The Lightning Theft.
Oh, boy.
Film. Yes. Which, you know, after I watched the movie, I did watch Dominic Noble's video on it. So I know how different the books are than the movie. So if there are any Percy Jackson fans out there, don't worry. I know that.
Don't at our guest, okay?
Don't at me. I know. Okay. But yeah, I mean, I also saw, you know, because of the, you know, Harry Potter, blah, 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 I've been seeing people say that, like, Percy Jackson, you know, and like the author is like pretty cool, you know, this and that. So yeah, we were curious. And yeah, I mean, from what I can tell, the books do sound, you know, a lot cooler than this movie turned out. And I can see where all the fans were probably like, oh man, they did a lot of, you know, standard like Hollywood things to like make it make sense for the big screen, you know, which, but yeah, I mean, I thought all like the fight scenes were like really fun, and every time a monster showed up, I was like genuinely surprised. Like when their teacher turned out into that, you know, like ghoulish drag thing, I was like, whoa, okay. Having Percy Jackson when they're you know, when he's like, yeah, oh my ADHD makes me a demigod, and is my superpower. It's just like, that's
sure.
Okay, like that's an extremely like positive way to put like a special boy character, you know.
Yeah. Especially because I'm pretty sure it's one of your parents is a god, and that's what makes
the
you
thing
a
that
demigod.
makes you
I'm
a
pretty sure
demigod.
that's the thing. Maybe not. So that, and I, as someone with like ADHD, that was like funny. But also, like, if I was a kid reading that, I'd be like, you know, that would, you know, probably affect me as a kid. So, like, that's cool. As an adult watching it, it's like, you know, or it could just be just a thing, you know, a part of your brain. That's another thing. But, yeah, you know, it kind of does that thing. It did that thing to most kids' movies where they kind of just, like, round all the sharp edges, you know, and make it, like, the outline of the thing that you remembered that you liked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw that in theaters, and I hadn't read the books because I often am a terrible human being who will watch the movie and then read the books because it always feels like, oh, I get the director's cut now. I get
you get the the source.
Oh, there was a Tom Bombadil this whole time? Who knew? How exciting for me to learn something. And I cannot say I remember a single frame of Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief.
Yeah, none of it is memorable. The main character or the main actor, he's definitely doing his best. You know, kid actors, I'm never gonna like, you know, whatever, they're kids. But yeah, a lot of the times he just seemed like more pissed off for no reason than like, you know, which is was like oh, okay,
Sure.
yeah, sure. So, you know.
Yeah, it's one of those movies that I remember seeing because, like, I am a blasphemer who, you know, the Wizard series that shall not be named. I saw all of them without reading any of the books. And
You've already named like a couple times.
I know.
Yeah.
See, that's called a joke, Rachel. I was being...
What?
What?
Here,
No
I'm going to tell you
way.
all the jokes that I'm going to do for the rest of the
Podcast.
podcast before we do. So when we get to the joke, okay.
Nice callback.
Yeah.
So, but no, I'm very regularly a person who sees the movie before reading the book, and then I'll usually read the book. Like I became obsessed with Scott Pilgrim after seeing the movie, read all of the comics, and so with Lightning Thief, I remember wanting to see it because it gave me the Harry Potter vibes, and I remember thinking it was okay. I tend to be more patient than most with mediocre movies, but also I felt like the actors were doing the best they could with the source material.
Yeah.
Also,
Yeah.
like Piers Brosnan as a centaur teacher. Like,
Oh my God!
I love that man, and so
my God.
that was a fun surprise. But like,
How did I forget that?
right?
Yeah. Steve Coogan as
Jesus.
I love Steve Coogan. And I was like, oh my God. Oh, wow.
It's wild. The casting was wild, and it was an interesting movie. I think that it missed the mark. I've actually heard that the musical, the Percy Jackson musical, which ran in New York for a while, was a very good adaptation of it. I've not seen it or listened to it. But, like, I do remember, like, I think I watched it a few years later after it came out, like, on either DVD or TV or whatever, and going, this is not exciting, except for those moments where, like, they're fighting and it's meant to be exciting. And, like, I don't know, I just feel like it's so easy to make gods and demigods exciting. You know, I'm also coming off having played but not finished Hades, which is a video game that is
yes.
steeped in that.
Hades.
And so, like, to like I can't even imagine going back to Lightning Thief now after like Hades is doing such a good job with that kind of narrative.
Boy, yeah, I've beat Hades and I'm still playing it because there's still more to learn. Yeah, that's doing such an interesting job with these like deity characters and like building them out to be like not only story elements but like actual gameplay efficient element. I love it. I would talk about Hades forever.
What's also weird about Lightning Thief now is like we're now coming full circle with Hercules. At least at some point they mentioned that there is a live action version of Hercules in production based on the Disney animated version. Like there's nothing official, but I think they had started like casting and stuff. And like I'm really hesitant because like I feel like Hercules, the animated feature, has aged okay for the most part, but there are definitely things that like I'd be interested to see what they do with the live action, but based on what they've done with the current live action movies like Lion King and some others,
it's like a paint by number instead of the like
here's something different.
And they always change the wrong things that weren't actually problems but were things that people liked to say were problems but weren't actually the problem of the thing that you should be fixing.
And
Belle's
also,
mom died in the plague.
And there's such an interesting choice that the mouse keeps making with pieces that have stage productions. You know, like Lion King has a stage production that has made choices and done things. Beauty and the Beast had a stage production that made choices and did things. And I heard really, really great things about Shakespeare in the Park's production of Hercules that was building on the animated feature, and it's just like, just do that, do those things, or just give us the recorded version of that Delacorte Theater production. I would totally be fine with that because I really wanted to see it.
Same. And this was this your first time that you and your partner saw The Lightning Thief? You had not seen it before?
Yeah, we came in pretty blunt. I guess I knew the general, like, you know, the milieu, if you will. But yeah, the thing that struck me most odd is that, in the movie they kind of just like abandoned the, like, I guess in the book, you know, everyone is modern looking, and they really like modernized the tropes of like what these people would look like today, even to the point where their like meeting place is in New York, which makes sense because they just whatever terrible dynastic, like large countries in charge. It's us. But and so to see in the movie how they just like put them in togas and like totally forgot that was like a central conceit of the book was just like, oh man,
It sounds like the costume designer or whoever is making like the final decisions on these things were like, I read American Gods and I did not like it. So we're not gonna do that here. No.
We're gonna put them in robes. My kids like the real Greeks. Yeah, it was just like a lot of like weird small choices like that made it like less fun and made it make less sense to kids because it's like kids know what ancient Greek was like. That's why they like this version of it because it's different. They don't need to see like it's like
I can't stop thinking about a child who's like all about like Homer, really just like a purist about it of just like no that's not Zeus would never wear a business suit. What are you talking about? I read all of Eurydice. What are you talking about?
Well, so now
I'm 7.
Now my big question is, Maggie, now that you've watched the first one, they did make a second movie before, which bombed apparently. Do you intend with your partner to watch the sequel? You do.
Absolutely, yes.
You have to know.
One, we gotta know. 2, if I start something, especially when it's like movie related, TV series, I feel better about falling off because it's like as long as I get the general idea, like. I consume a whole lot of media, so it's like what's
that like, Maggie?
I can't imagine.
I would never even
just a constant stream into your 2 eyeballs that goes out one ear and the other. But yes, I absolutely do plan to watch the second movie. I gotta see I got to see what they thought the second movie should be.
Right.
I want to see what they think that they should have done after the first movie.
Exactly.
So.
Well, if you had to sum up Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief in just 3 words without using Percy Jackson, Lightning, or Thief, what 3 words would you use?
Oh, man, I would say, man, this is going to sound mean, but like, banal. I'm thinking of like the relationship, like the kids' relationships. I felt like must be very more fleshed out in the books, because in the movie it was like 1 minute of like I don't like you, and then literal the next minute friendship, and it was like that's a little juvenile even for like for a kids book. There must be more to this. So banal, surprising. Like I said, every time someone turned into a monster, I was like, hell yeah, absolutely, I'm on board. Kill that monster. And goofy. Just a lot of it was just straight goofy.
Yeah. Which
in like a fun way.
Well, yeah, I think like goofiness in a movie is underrated, because if a movie like I've said it before and I've said it a 1,000 times on many podcasts. The reason I like Aquaman as a movie is because it's just unabashedly goofy as hell.
It's goofy.
Yeah.
I love movies that have a sense of like goof to them.
Yes.
I'm on board.
As friend of our podcast, Patrick Willems, has said, Gonzo.
Gonzo,
movies.
yeah. Gotta love Gonzo.
Gotta love him. Gotta love the Gonzo.
Excellent. Well, Maggie,
Get
we're
weird
so
with
excited
it.
to have you here. I got to do my favorite thing with creators that I do is I discovered you before knowing your work, and so I got to binge all of your stuff, and I love doing that.
Oh, interesting. I wonder what you took from that, because that's interesting.
And of course I loved it. We messaged briefly about your Zack Snyder series, which is just mwah.
Yeah.
Just some of the best.
Explaining it through a makeup tutorial is maybe one of the most genius avenues of just like taking the piss out of something that I've ever seen. It's just
If you can't tell, I'm both a younger sister, like the youngest in my family, but also the youngest in all. I have a large Irish Catholic family, and I am the youngest cousin of like 20 cousins. So
oh yeah, I'm about 4 from the bottom of
okay.
33
Yeah, so you,
cousins. So I
get it.
I have family members that I did not know existed. Like my cousins had kids, and they're like, "Yeah, my son Wayne," and I'm like, "Who the fuck is Wayne?" I'm related to them.
Yes. Never met them. But yeah, I feel like a lot of that comes from like little, I don't know, just like an energy of like
being the youngest.
Yeah, like you can say, I don't know.
But
Yeah.
I did want to start by talking about how you come up with some of the premises for the videos, because some are pretty straightforward, like video essays, and then others, like my favorite of the most recent ones, which is when you talk about the queerness in Lord of the Rings and Old Guard. How do you pull those kind of formats together? What inspires you to, create characters and do stuff outside of just, hi, I'm doing a video essay, I'm going to talk at you for an hour?
Right. Yeah, I think actually a lot of stuff comes kind of from necessity, which, necessity breeds innovation.
Exactly, obviously.
Never heard the term.
I gotta write that down.
Write that down, kids. You'll never hear that
Mind
again
blown.
from any old librarian. But yeah, especially for that series, it comes from a mix of, a lot of my content does take a long time to produce. Like, I put multiple months into videos. So the Films and Conversation series was kind of a way to do a little bit of a shorthand way of, making videos that were more specific and concise. Hence the character of the old woman who has a cable access show is based off of people, a couple of people who I love in my real life that
Excellent.
I based her off of. But yeah, it does come from a sense that I I think anyone can talk about movies, and I think everyone can read movies. And I think everyone knows a lot more about movies and films than they think they do. Even, this woman who lives by herself in Wisconsin. Yeah, so it's kind of just like literally anyone can read movies, like, and you do it without even knowing or thinking that you're doing it. So that's kind of where that character came from, because it is something that I believe and is a thing that informs, most of my essay writing and my work, which is why, a lot of my essays, I will be talking about a film, but I'll also apply it to, current events or real life, just because, yeah, that's kind of the thing. It's like you kind of know in a sense, when you're watching something, you don't need to have like a ton of like, you don't need to be like reading like film theory books to watch a movie and to, understand visually what someone is trying to tell you. So that, and also, yeah, I needed to find a way to get videos out more often. So I was like, okay, if I have segments in the beginning and the end that I film in person, and then I know the middle will be VO, that's easier for me to like plan videos, so that I can do the films and conversation while working on like a larger video for like, the middle of the year. So part of it was planning, part of it was, thematically, I liked this character. And then also as far as like choosing topics, it really does just come from, I watch about a film a day, sometimes more than that. So a lot of times it's just themes that I see from like continually watching movies. That particular video, my friend Lynn's, who's in the video, they were tweeting about Lord of the Rings, and so it kind of devolved from that. So that's the first time that someone like kind of suggested a video idea to me.
Right.
Yeah. So, but yeah, for the next, the ones that are going to be coming out for Films and Conversation purely came from, we watched a film that we wanted to watch anyways, and being like, oh, actually thematically that makes a lot of sense with this other film, that we watched like 4 months ago, and it'd be interesting to see, what they have to say to each other. So
I love
Yeah,
that.
it's such a fascinating way to really dissect elements of pieces, to really honestly, I was kind of inspired because of your Films and Conversation to really watch Douglas after in and of itself, because I was like, oh, this feels, not just because they were performed in the same space at certain times, but like, how do these like represent different avenues of expression and doing stuff, and just I don't read theory, and I had a feeling about a thing. Totally.
That's just like it's a human thing.
What are we gonna do with these empathy producing apparatuses besides empathize with them? Like, everyone can do that,
right? Exactly, and that's also why another reason I love talking about film and stuff is because it brings people together, and it's like a common thing that people can like talk about. But also it is one of the biggest ways that we share ideas with each other. And yes, unfortunately, a lot of films do go through the Hollywood studio system to share those ideas, which is why we, end up where we are with a lot of, repeated ideas of how to portray things. But I do also believe that, film at its best, helps bring people to the same page and the same understanding about things. So, but yeah, like the next Films and Conversation we're doing is on David Lynch's The Straight Story and Rambo, which are like
amazing. I love that.
Yeah, two seemingly totally different, and yet, however, both really discuss like the pain and trauma of like war and veterans, and what that looks like. So like, in a way, they're two films that have nothing to do with each other, and in another way, they're discussing very much like, two sides of a So that's the next one that we're doing.
That's exciting. That's really cool. I love that idea. I wanted to talk a little bit about, it's clear with the 3-part Zack Snyder series that you did that it was an undertaking, and like some of it was really like it was a trial. It wasn't an easy thing to talk about, and even having reactions from one video to the next. I'm curious, when looking to discuss directors or certain films, is there part of the culture or part of the film's history or even just that person that makes it harder for you to talk about? And does that deter you from talking about those things, or do you kind of see it as like challenge accepted? I want to dive into this.
Ooh, probably challenge accepted for the most part, quite honestly. But I will say, any director that I talk about, it does come from a place of like, there is something, because everything I talk about, I spend a lot of time, because it's either like, I loved the Watchmen movie when I first saw it. And like, there are like, Zack Snyder was a director when I was really young that I was like, that's the thing. It's like, I saw the way that other people still see Zack Snyder. That is how, when I was first like consuming his content when I was younger. So a lot of the people that I choose to talk about does come from a place of like, in a way, like I really connect with the material. And so really the Zack Snyder series came from like a dissecting of why now when I watch it, I have just a completely different reaction to it, and thinking about how I used to watch it and thinking about the things that like I did love about 300, you know, when I was watching it at that age, that now when I see it just brings up a whole different like trove of feelings. And just seeing how, you know, times have changed in the interim, where Zack Snyder is really director that does not change. Like the things that he is talking about are still the things that he was talking about when he was making 300 and Dawn of the Dead, in a very like cyclical like wheel, that it's so fascinating to think about how I used to view him and to see his work now, and to really just see the exact same themes come up over and over and over again. I think there's a section in the video where we just like go through all of his movies, and it's like, this is the same, these shots are the same. He literally has these same shots in 300 that he has in his Superman v Batman. It is mind-boggling. So yeah, even the directors that I, you know, you could argue I'm like taking the piss out of, or, you know, like examining their work deeply, it always comes from a place of like, it comes from that place of thinking a certain way about them in the past. And also, especially with Zack Snyder, just the amount of space that he takes up in the film industry. It's like, of course I need to talk about him, because like, have you seen how much, really, it's like how much space he takes up, especially in the DC universe, and especially being friends with marginalized writers who, you know, are doing amazing things for other comic book franchises that I am so proud of and admire so much. And then to look over at DC and to see them like pushing no needles, doing nothing, not hiring a single person that, you know, that I know or work with whose work I respect. It's almost like looking over and seeing a black hole of creativity basically dominated by one vision, and having an entire like Warner Brothers adhere to that, besides their, you know, like Birds of Prey, which ends up being one of my favorite DC movies.
Yep.
So good.
Same.
Surprise.
Yeah, shock.
It's such an interesting conversation that can be had about the influence of someone so static as Zack Snyder in the way we relate to creatives. You know, a conversation that I constantly have on my other show, and I'm sorry to bring up my other show, is
You're good.
Is the idea of folks feeling uncomfortable when someone who's making something a certain way changes the way they're making something. You know, like we used to sort of follow the evolution of folks, and it feels like a lot of that has been like removed from the film industry because we have such a toxic relationship with the brand TM.
Yep.
I think pop music is still kind of in that role of like, it's okay to reinvent, you know, like that still has that idea, and I think a lot of cinema has really lost some of that. And I wonder how much of that has to do with the fact of like the cultural power that someone like Zack Snyder has over the industry, not just comic books, but just like the industry in general.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be a whole nother story if he was creating different work, or if you could even like see him, if you could really see anything beyond the narrow, like looking only at 12 o'clock vision of, and it also goes back to, I did go to film school. So like, if you notice, a lot of the films I cover are things that traditionally you would probably be discussing in film school. And also just to say, because I never really adhered to auteur theory, and especially being an actor, it's like, listen, I know how much I'm bringing to the, it's like, and being on film sets, like, a friend working on film sets, I see how much work goes into every individual job. And to me, the most exciting thing about film and TV is the collaborating together, working together to create something, is magical to me, and that's why I love this industry. So with the auteur theory and simultaneously, especially with Zack Snyder, everything good is attributed to Zack Snyder, and everything bad is attributed to it was someone else, and it's like. Listen, if you're going to do auteur theory, then pick one. Either it is that, and all good and bad things were his choice, or we can recognize that all films are made with so many voices that it's really kind of unfair to, it's a very confusing, but all to say that it's like I don't really like auteur theory, and it takes away so much agency from so many other people who work in the industry and so many other jobs on set that contribute to, the final movie. And there's so many movies now that we, hail as Hallmark films that were saved in editing, and it's like, and we don't give Marsha Lucas like her flowers for editing Star Wars. We give it to George Lucas because he's the billionaire
whose name was the biggest.
Exactly. So, and also being a woman, I'm privy to how many times the auteur theory conveniently leaves out women and people of color and marginalized communities in favor of praising the straight white man who happens to,
one great man did it all.
Did it all. Isn't that amazing? And it also it increases the barrier, I think, for people who, didn't go to film school but love film. It's like, listen, auteur theory is not real. You can absolutely contribute. You could come and work in the industry. Yes, there are creative geniuses, of course. But those creative geniuses are working creatively with other people to, create things. So you don't need to be some sort of savant to, make something really important. Yeah,
for sure.
It's true. Yeah, and it's that idea of anytime you watch something where it's that was so great, except for that one thing, that one element just wasn't in concert with everything else. It could be the way it was filmed and the color palette you're looking at,
the editing of your
live
exactly show.
A discrepancy in the understanding of period costuming of your period piece or whatever. These things aren't made in a vacuum, and it's important to always remember that nothing we are watching that has any type of a budget or more than one person with a camera just going, I'm here, hello,
I'm here.
And even then that's not made in a vacuum. You've got people helping you script edit, or nothing is a solo project unless you are absolutely all alone, literally in a space. And even then that project is still communal because it is being shared with other people.
It's impossible to not be shaped by your influences and everything around you. Even if you say that something's 100% you, it's not. It's the result of everything you've done to that point.
Yeah. Wow. It's almost like we live in commune with one another.
And it would seem.
Unbelievable.
And should all be.
I don't like that. I don't like it.
Oh no! Oh boy. I do want to talk a little bit about a project you worked on a while ago that I found incredibly evocative and super interesting. You were dissecting a lot of the films of the very like religious studio whose name I have completely forgotten, and I really wanted to like discuss how you sort of decided to tackle that, because it's kind of an area that a lot of film Twitter doesn't often go into, because you know the praise the algorithm, we gotta talk about what's popular, you know, and I think that your God's Not Dead, I'm in Love with a Church Girl series is so fascinating and interesting, and such a wonderful like discussion of how film can propagandize agenda. I don't really like have a question other than like tell me about that. Like, how did you get there? Like, what were the choices you wanted to make? What was sort of like your overarching thesis about tackling these? I loved those. I thought they were so great. As someone who was really like raised in the church and watched a lot of like religious pieces growing up, it was such a wonderful way to sort of like re-engage with art made by those who want to evangelize others.
Right. Yeah. Honestly, I think the idea came from it was because I think I said this in one of the videos, but I mean, one of the things that my partner and I do for fun are like watch bad movies. And it is so fun. There's so many gems that we have seen that are just one I recommend that is not Christian but very good, and it's on YouTube illegally. It's called Chain of Souls. Ooh. And it was made like down the street in LA. Like, I could name you all the locations. It's one of those that's like yes. It's so fun to watch, but also I like watching them, but really isn't like a hate watch. Like, I really do actually enjoy watching, I don't even want to say amateurs, but yeah, like people who, you know, don't have a lot of experience making movies, because it does kind of break it down to its elements. It's like the editing is so editing, and like the scenes are so scenes. It almost like distills movies down to, you know, what are the what do we think a movie is? You know, okay, it's these scenes that kind of like, you know, so for all those like nerdy reasons, I do think they were really fun to watch. So, like, watching Fireproof really did purely come from, this is going to be fucking fun to watch. And they are. But, yeah, while watching it, I was like, I gotta talk about this. What? Because, you know, for the most part, you know, especially with, like, kids' films, and, you know, I saw this one watching Percy Jackson. It's like, oh, yeah, like, the message of, like, you know, things that, you know, adults aren't always right, like, you know, things that are mental illnesses could actually be helpful. You know, you can pick out the lessons that the underlying story is trying to convey. So when you're watching these Christian movies and it's like, they're trying to tell me that like this marriage is worth saving, like, oh my god, like what a nightmare of like a lesson to make a movie about.
you gotta stick it out till you die.
You gotta stick it out till you die.
You made a promise. You ate the wafer. Come on.
Yeah, you ate that, and that means that it's just, yeah. So like to extrapolate these seemingly, and again, like I grew up in like, you know, a Christian household, so you hear these things like passing by, and you're like, sure, and then when you watch a movie that tries to like apply it to the real world, it just like shows how like none of it is helpful. It's dangerous in many areas. That was the other reason why I decided to make a video about it, was just like the way that these movies feel so sinister. Like, it is just like these are like if evil villains like made a movie to try to convince you that like bad things are actually good, like this is how they would do it. It's like showing you like a miserable wife who is like severely emotionally damaged by her partner, and at the end they're just like, and we're in love. It's like,
yeah,
it's okay, God fix it. God fix it.
Oh my god, like we
pray
know
more. It's fine.
It's fine. God fixed it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it purely just from, yeah, like again, like just any casual viewer who's like watching it will have that like gut reaction of like, what? in various parts. And yeah, what they're speaking to is this like a movie that kind of is like so and it's so like controlling in a weird movie way, because I think most movies kind of guide you through the story. Some of them do like pull you and drag you through the story. You can kind of feel like, you know, when a director is kind of either like showing you or telling you. And this is one of the very extreme examples of like, we're not only gonna tell you, we're like not even gonna show you it's like, you know, a track in a Disney World ride where it's like every look is written out to make you, you know, okay, and then this will happen, and then he'll get over his porn addiction through God because that's what should happen, you know. And yeah, it's just, it takes the idea of like making a film and puts it into such like a narrow context that it is really just fascinating to watch them and be like, man, wow.
you wanted to make a sermon first,
yes,
and then a movie after,
yes.
Very
like
much
this
so.
was the sermon that you wrote, and so then you made a movie around it, and this is how it comes out.
What if my anecdote at the pulpit became an entire movie?
Right, which is.
There was a man who was unsure that commercialism was bad at Christmas.
And then he learned the good lesson and
he learned that the more money you have, the more God loves you.
Obviously.
Yeah. In fact.
It's gotta be that, right?
It's gotta be that.
My next question is actually about one of my favorite videos that you've done, which is on Fight Club, because the reason I love that video is because I loved Fight Club. I was someone who, when I saw that movie and I read that book, I fell in love with Chuck Palahniuk, and I fell in love with that movie.
Oh my God! I'm sorry. I gotta say, I saw Chuck Palahniuk read a short story, and it was so gross. I was like dry heaving.
Yeah.
It was the best. I cannot.
But
I remember being in high school and reading Cho and being like, I'm an adult now.
Yeah.
I've become an adult to like this.
Yeah. Ooh. Have y'all read like mini Palahniuk books? Can I ask what everybody's favorite is?
It's hard for me. I feel like I just go back to Fight Club because I'm attached to the movie and the actors. But I think I really, especially after the Choke movie came out, because I saw the movie Choke before I read the book.
Oh, interesting.
I went back and read Choke, and Choke made a much more lasting impression after that.
Yeah. Choke probably had the most lasting impression on me. Oh my God, I love Sam Rockwell in Choke. Really just
very
good
choice.
My favorite Palahniuk book is Lullaby, and I hope one day they make that, because I think like a buddy cop road movie that goes really, really wrong sounds so delightful.
Yeah.
So delightfully like disgusting.
Yeah.
There's a poem that'll kill you. We gotta go find it.
We gotta find it.
I love it.
But the question was, like, after watching your video on it, I realized so much about it that I definitely hate in movies now that I forgave at the time, like all the stuff with Bob and all the stuff of how emotion is treated. Like I hate that kind of bullshit now, but it was just so part of the text for that. And so your video brought that to light in a way that I was like, oh yeah, of course I know this, but I didn't see it until you were talking about it. Has there ever been a movie you're researching that you love, that you're working on, that through the research you realize, oh, I hate, not necessarily I hate this movie, but like I hate these parts of this movie, I didn't see it. Like, has that ever come to light while putting together a video?
Oh, definitely. And I think the prime example of that is, Fight Club. Like I said, all the videos that I pick are because I, love the movie and still love the movie in some way. Like, I think everyone who watches Fight Club is so affected by it, which is also why I wanted to talk about it, because it's such a cultural touchstone for so many people. I mean, I think as a kid watching that was the first time I was like, whoa, like movies can make you feel this way. Like, whoa. And every generation has like movies like that. Another one that I recently watched, which, I'm forgetting it now, but there's a movie I recently watched. My partner and I have an age gap, like a 9-year age gap, and I'm younger. So a movie for me that would be like, whoa, this opened up my mind to like what movies could be. They have a version of that is from like, however many years before that was like, oh yeah, like this was the first time I saw like a like, so every generation kind of has a movie like that. And one of them for us is definitely Fight Club. Anyone who's into movies has seen Fight Club and was probably very affected by it. It's a very effective movie. But yeah, I mean, of all the movies that I talk about, especially when, you're watching it over and over and over again, you kind of just see things that are like, wow, here's the way that I saw it when I first watched it. And now looking back, and especially seeing the way that people read it, I see it now as something as still as emotionally impactful. But maybe not in the way that, it originally, spoke to me. And especially with Fight Club, and especially being older and seeing it through, especially looking at the character of Marla, because, now that I am a grown woman who, like, I love my sexuality. And so watching the Marla character, I was like, oh, when I was younger, I was only looking at, the two hot guys who were in the movie. And, like, sure, Marla was there, but it wasn't until I was older that I was watching and I was like, wow, wow.
Yeah, it's funny with Marla, when you talk about it in the video, like, I remember being disgusted by her character because that's the vision they're giving you. Yeah, and I love Helena Bonham Carter. And so, like, watching you talk about it and then rewatching the movie recently, I was like, oh, she's not disgusting in the movie. She's portrayed as disgusting through the vision of these two characters who are one person. Right. And it just kind of blew my mind. I was like, oh, I was programmed to dislike her. There was nothing wrong with her. Like, it's wild.
He's self-loathing through her because like they are so similar. Like I always think about the dialogue they have about him like saying, "Don't come here," and she's like, "But you're coming here under the same pretense." Like, what are you talking about? It's so interesting to like find that very human facet of seeing yourself in another and hating it because of that fact. What a weird gift in such a strange kind of problematic film.
But even also the way that he processes his like, not to gender everybody, like his male feelings through this like female vows that he feels comfortable hating, that he feels comfortable. She doesn't belong here. I don't like. It's like. It's this thing that it's like, it's so, I mean, it's misogyny, but it's so interesting the way that it's portrayed. And it's like, that is actually how it kind of looks a lot of the times. A man like filtering their like whatever through the woman in their life who, doesn't even like have anything to do with like that part of his life or, so simultaneously, it's so insightful while also like being so truthful that any like teenage boy that watches it is not gonna pick up on that because
it's interesting, and I found this a lot through Film YouTube, reassessing what I like. You mentioned before that you genuinely liked Watchmen when you first saw it, and I did too. And I knew some of the obvious problems, like everything that with Silk Spectre and all of that stuff, but like even the stuff you pointed out about Rorschach and like why that change is a big deal, like that never occurred to me. Like I of course love I'm forgetting the actor's name, but his performance of Rorschach because it was designed to relate to a certain part of my brain. But then when you reframed it and explained it as like this, him getting killed publicly, like you watch it happen, defeats the whole purpose of it that was in the comics. I was like, oh, of course it does. And I love the comic. And like, I found that a lot of Film YouTube does that for me in a way that I've always wanted that kind of in conversation. The same reason I listen to some film podcasts is like, I definitely am like a lot of people, I watch a film and see it through my lens and will miss certain things, but then getting someone else to talk to me about it and going, oh yeah, of course that's obvious. And I see that in other places. Why didn't I see it here? Why was I blind to it in this one moment? Was it because, even I was recently a guest on a podcast where we watched The Dark Knight, which I love. I was obsessed with that movie, but seeing how cops are presented in that movie, seeing the Joker, what my opinion, still one of the best portrayals of the Joker, but seeing how problematic, and that's the start of a dark slope to the kind of incel behavior that we see now. Like realizing all of that, I was like, oh no, but oh yeah, like
Yeah.
and it's important to realize it. And I like that you and a lot of other film YouTubers will talk about how it's okay to like something problematic, but you have to acknowledge that it's problematic and want to discuss and not just hide from it. And that's
much like making a movie, viewing a movie also isn't in a vacuum.
Yes, correct.
Yes, yeah. And it's just like, and it's also an important thing to do, like to think forward, what movies do we want to see going forward?
Yeah.
Because I mean, as you know, Hollywood has a remake problem, which it's always had. You know, it's always the safer bet to do something again than do something new.
Yep.
But I do think that looking back at movies that, were super impactful, you know, things that in a knee-jerk reaction you'd be like, oh yeah, amazing. Like, it is important to look back and see, no, actually there was like a lot of, you know, there are absolutely things that you could, you know, it opens the door for the future of like, don't worry, like there are more masterpieces to come, especially more outside of the very narrow point of view that we have seen so many movies in, you know, the history of humanity, that we should be excited for new things and new ideas and new perspectives. Because these movies that we hail as, you know, perfect and foundational, they still are foundational, and we can still absolutely appreciate and watch them, you know. But there are definitely things that it's like, but we should feel okay moving beyond this. You know, this came out so many years ago, and the things about it that work for a reason outside of, you know, worshiping it as some sort of like, you know.
Yeah, take what works, leave behind what doesn't. You know, that's how we improve and grow and innovate. You know, that's
and
how we as Snyder watchers, who maybe started with our Zack Snyder journey being very much like, oh, what a visionary, what a great thing. Like, we take what worked in that and put it into the next thing. You know, like you watch it like a Kathy Yan film or something, and you still have sort of like some of those ideas and things that were built into you through like Spielberg and Lucas and all of that, but then you're just like, oh cool, here's a different way to say this story. We shouldn't be static. I'm sorry, Zach, we shouldn't be static.
I am sorry. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Zach, hey, Zach,
if you're listening,
bud.
If you're listening, which
he always does.
I know you're my secret. You're my secret.
You know, like
you know, #1 fan.
Like a real Beetlejuice situation here.
My last question that I want to ask, and we're all going to answer this, and I'll go first, is
oh boy,
what is a terrible movie that you unabashedly love, regardless of how terrible it is? And it could be bad thematically, bad because of how it's made. And like for me, I realized it recently, subjecting to other people who are not familiar with it, to Army of Darkness, the Bruce Campbell vehicle, which is...
Wait, that's a bad movie?
Right?
Yeah, I was going to say,
like,
I need to reassess my...
Like, I don't think it's a...
Oh, boy.
I don't think it's a poorly made movie, but I think for sure there are things that haven't aged well, like how they treat women in the film, how it's a very white movie, all of those things. But like, and like when we, Rachel and I were guests on another podcast, and I brought that, and like some of the reactions were what I expected, which were kind of tepid, and then others were just like, what was this? Why did we watch this? And like, I still, even after just dissecting it and talking about why it didn't work and what the problems were, I still love it. And so I'm curious if there's a movie that jumps right to the front of your mind that's like that. Like, no matter how problematic or ridiculous or poorly made it is, you still love it.
Matt, it's funny that you bring Army of Darkness as a thing, because I was also there in the room where it happened, and I walked away from that like, oh, the consensus was that was so much fun.
It
like,
was, totally.
I didn't even think it was in the list of like bad films. That's great. I have to think. My memory sucks, so I have to be like, what movies did I watch ever in the
I mean, like
history of
another
my
one
life?
that comes to mind for me is like, I love the View Askew universe. I love Clerks and Mallrats, but they have not aged well. You know, especially Clerks and how it treats women, and there are no people of color in that film either. You know, things like that, or even worse so. I would say Clerks 2 is worse than Clerks. because of how it treats queer relationships. And, you know, it's the same problem like in Fight Club, like being emotional means you're weak or you're gay or whatever. And like, you know, I think it's fascinating to still love. That said, I don't love Clerks 2 as much as I love like Mallrats. So I'm just curious if there's anything that lives in your head that's kind of like that, where you're like, I recognize the problems, I still love this movie.
I think one of them for me is probably Speed Racer, from the Wachowski sisters. It's like, it's a lot of things, but the cacophony of like visual barrage.
Yeah.
Well, the percentage of people that would be, and rightfully so, do not like that and are turned off by it. For some reason, it's just like, but it's too much in a way that I like too much.
The Speed Racer movie.
Yeah.
I think it is.
Oh, okay, great.
I think it is an underrated genius film.
Mikey Newman actually just put a video out about it, which I encourage everyone to watch. And it really goes into how, like, the movie in itself is, first and foremost, definitely made for kids.
Yeah.
So when you're watching it, like, keep that, you know, they did not write this to be for adults. However, it is very much inspired by, like, basically it's like an anti-studio movie about how to, like, not sell out your vision while making something that you love, which the Wachowskis did love Speed Racer. So it's a very actually like layered movie, and like the visual barrage almost like kind of like, and Mikey speaks about this, but you know, it recalls like Dadaism and, you know, things that are basically supposed to go against the way that you traditionally watch a movie, which is like,
I love that.
You know, but also with that being said, I can understand why someone would watch it and be like, what?
Yeah. I mean, in the same vein as that, Jupiter Ascending, I saw in theaters and still love and constantly tell people to watch it. And then they'll come back to me and go, why did you tell me to watch that? I'm like, because you will never see that again. That is,
you'll never
that
see it
is
again.
so much its own thing. I want the uncut version of that movie. I really do. I want like, apparently there was like an extra hour or 2 hours that they had to cut from the script because the studio said the movie was too long, and like that explains the narrative touch points, and I'm like, I want that movie. Why is she royalty? Because bees like her. Why?
Yeah, why?
Why not? Hey, why not? I think this is going to be a trilogy that lives rent free in my head all of the time. A Christmas Prince, the trilogy.
The Christmas Prince trilogy. Absolutely.
That
All
is
hail Christmas Prince trilogy.
I know
whole
that
world.
is bad. Like, I don't ever want to say something is bad or good, but like, it's bad. It's trash, but it's my trash, and I love it. I love that it devolves into such madness that by the third one, it's like, our baby could be cursed.
Yes! Oh, the third baby curse movie is like...
Yeah.
Oh.
No joke. Like, I will just sometimes out of nowhere think about that tracking shot where she and the prince are sitting having a video chat with her dad, and she's just listing all of the things that are going wrong, and then she just like the camera stops and she's like, and if we don't get this treaty signed, the baby could be cursed. And it's just like, this is you made a live action cartoon, and I love that so much.
And the way they so clearly wrote it as they went.
Yeah,
It's just like
woo. Well, I guess the second one where we're talking about economic issues that we could not explain well. Maybe let's not do it for the third one. Baby curse?
Baby curse?
Let's go.
It's wild. And I would also add to that the extended universe, because as we all know, the Princess Switch takes place within the Christmas Prince universe.
Yeah, I have yet to watch the Switch ones. They are on my list next holiday season.
High recommend. The second one, they just fuck again. Balls to the wall. And it's like,
yeah.
Yes.
I just keep calling that one So Many Hudgens.
So many
Hudgens. So Many Hudgens.
But really, that movie checks off everything you'd want to see
Good.
in a Christmas Switch 2 switched again. It's really the buffet of the things that you would expect to see. So
Yeah.
they really deliver on the promise.
Amazing.
I'll say
Oh
that.
my God, I love that. Well,
Yeah.
Maggie, thank you so much for
Thank you,
joining us.
Maggie.
This is an honor and a privilege.
This was so fun. Thank you so much
Like,
for having me.
It's been like the butterfly in my stomach week. I'm just like, oh no.
Before,
I hope we're cool and nice enough.
yeah.
Oh, I haven't showered in days. You are in welcome company.
Same.
Huzzah.
I'm covered in
I
cartoons.
showered
Excellent.
today. Wow.
I was gonna say
Good
your
for you.
hair looks amazing. It looks
Thank
really nice
you.
and fresh.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
you really
it's-
took care of it.
Yeah, it's a fresh dye, a fresh clean.
Ooh.
You know. Did my best.
Maggie, before we ask you our final question here on the show and wrap up the show, I would love for you to take an opportunity to tell folks where they can find you on the internet and check out all the stuff that you're working on.
Ooh, yes. You can find my daily ramblings on Twitter. That's where I am unfiltered. You can come find me on there. It's just my name, Maggie May Fish, MAE, not MAY, like the month, not that way. Let's see. You can find me on there. On YouTube, just my name. You can check out my video essays there. I have a new show with my comedian friend Jamie Loftus, which has been so fun to make. And we are shooting more episodes in the very near future. But it's called SSCC, and that's the name of the channel. And it is my friend Jamie and I in the post-apocalyptic future where we have received government mandated lobotomies, and we try to remember what things were like in the before times by the various movies that wash up on our shore. So
It's so good.
And I can say it is a delight to watch.
Yes.
So
Highly
please check it
recommend.
out.
thank you.
Highly
Thank
recommend.
you. Jamie and I have been looking for an excuse to work together for a while, and when we finally were like, all right, this feels right. So I'm glad you guys like it.
Absolutely. I think now is a good time for us to thank a few folks before we wrap
Yes. Of course. I am so delighted, first and foremost, to thank John Presnell for the use of the song Aurora off the album Fair Game featuring Stefan Rimble to be our excellent high-energy stinger.
Yes.
I love it. Still love it. Good pop.
Good music.
Thank you.
Good music.
Thank you.
Someday we'll have John Presnell on the show. Someday.
Someday. I'll have to track him down again.
I would like to thank the incredible Katie Bug, who designed our awesome show art. You can commission her to do stuff. She's all over the place on the internet. Katie Beast, at Katie Beast on Twitter. Go pay her
Yes.
to make you awesome art.
Yeah, I thank you so much to the Certain Point of View Podcast Network for once again allowing us to be here for another fortnight unfired. We appreciate it.
They keep us
We are
around.
still unfired, even though we are always on our bullshit over here. So many great shows on the network to check out. We're adding more all of the time. Get hype. We are expanding. We got book podcasts. We got comic podcasts. We got you got a flavor profile you like. We got the umami you are craving.
Oh,
Nice. Well pitched. You
Off
can go,
the dome.
You can go to certainpov.com to join our Discord server where we talk about all of the shows and share memes and complain about our year 2021, which is, off to a rough start, let's be honest.
Already the longest year on record.
yes. Many months have been shoved into the first singular month of this year.
Yes, correct. I want to actually specifically shout out Comics Quest, which is hosted by previous guest JD Martin, which has just joined the network as of when we're recording. So please go check that out. JD Martin is an
JD
incredible
Martin,
human.
friend of all podcasts.
podcasts.
JD Martin.
And yeah, go to
I'm
certainpov.com.
so excited. That's the best.
And finally, if you have a moment, please go to your podcast platform of choice and rate and
Yes.
review us. It helps us to get featured and checked out by more folks. And yell about us on the internet. We appreciate that.
Yeah, we love it. Thank you. Keep us in your minds.
Keep us
I
in
guess.
your minds. Now,
Let us live rent free there.
now,
It's
Rachel.
the only place rent is canceled.
Right, exactly. Now, Rachel, please ask our incredible guest our final question.
Oh, I'm so excited. I love this question, Maggie. In the long history of the creation of storytelling through the lens of film and television, we have come up with some very wonderful shorthand things called tropes. If you could choose a trope from movies or TV to instantly and magically be true in your life, Maggie, which one would you choose?
Ooh, a trope to be true?
Yeah.
Oh, man. When you, earlier in the question, I was thinking all the negative tropes that And I was like, let's
Yeah.
not pick. The trope I would like to happen in real life is good things happening to good people. You know?
Nice. Love that.
It's when that happens in a movie, it seems so rare sometimes because as creators, we're like, we want our characters to go through a lot, but every once in a while, and I'm thinking specifically of the movie The Last Holiday starring Queen Latifah, sometimes just good things happen to good people, and it is just as satisfying to me, at least.
I agree.
Yeah.
I
I love
completely agree. I love
that.
that. Excellent. Well, thank you again, Maggie Mayfish, for joining
you,
us.
Maggie.
This was a delight. It was a pleasure. I also want to thank my incredible, lovely, radiant co-host,
Stop it.
the incredible Rachel Quirky Shank.
Oh my gosh. And I cannot help but thank my incredibly kind and talented, beautiful co-host, Matt, aka Stormageddon. Thank you so much for sitting with me week after week with beautiful people. What a blessing.
What a
this
blessing.
is.
Blessings
What
for
a
everyone.
What a blessing.
And of course,
Laying it on thick. It's fine. I
fine.
mean it though. It's thick, but I mean it.
Yeah,
This
I get it.
layer of peanut butter is earnest.
are we peanut butter flavored now? Is that what's happening? I'm
I don't
confused.
know. It was the first thing I
Yummy.
could think that could be spread on thick and
me
delicious.
And of
Everyone,
course, I want
go
to
eat
thank our incredible listeners. Thank you so much
Yes,
for
thank
listening.
you angels.
You are why we do this. We will see you at the movies or on a couch somewhere.
Aurora,
Bye bye.
Aurora, 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 Aurora. Metal to magnet, she will be mine. Aurora.
I always like to think of this podcast as like we're all just sitting down at the bar, you know,
Right.
having a chat.
Back when we
Yeah.
could do that kind of thing.
Right.
That what we're-
Ugh.
this is as close to bar culture as we get.
Distant memories. Never again. Also, because I've forgotten how to talk in just
know.
in-person situations.
We are literally all gonna be so fucking weird when this
Yeah.
is over. Like in
Yes.
public situations, we're all just gonna be like,
Sorry.
I don't.
How does it work? I mouth words?
I don't know. Yeah.
Do I bow? Do
Kurt, how do I
Do I
end
shake your
this?
elbow?
I want to end it. Yeah. What do I do?
how do I leave now
Yeah.
without just going like I'm done talking
Exit.
to you?
Exit.
Where's the closed window
the
on this
closed window?
conversation?
Right, the leave
What are we
call
doing?
of life.
Oh,
Okie
brilliant.
dokie.
Nostalgia is one of the strongest forces in the human psyche and is responsible for the continued existence of some of our favorite fandoms. From the minds behind the Dole Up in Dreams podcast and Isolation Cast Voices from Quarantine, Saturday Morning Confidential takes you on a deep dive into the properties that helped influence the artists and creators of today. So whether you are a Goonie, a gym girl, a Digi-destined, or you just want to return to Oz, new episodes release on Fridays bi-weekly starting January 1st of 2021, and join us on the Wednesdays after the main show for the Serial Killer Radio Hour, where we sit down with the people responsible for the toys, shows, and fandoms that you love. Now you can find Saturday Morning Confidential at certainpov.com/SMCpod or on your favorite podcast platforms. So don't forget to tune in for another deep dive into the files of Saturday Morning Confidential.
CPOV. CertainPOV.com.